afternoon, and thanks for stopping by Across the Fence. I'm Keith Silva. Today we're celebrating Bennington Battle Day, perhaps the most Vermonty holiday. It commemorates a series of battles fought during the Revolutionary War in New York State. I should add this is, of course, before Vermont was Vermont. The fighting took place in the late summer of 1777 and became known as the Battle of Bennington. To learn about this Vermont-centric victory, I'm joined by Vermont historian and my friend Howard Coffin. Good to see you.
Nice to be here, Keith.
Thank you. For years, Across the Fence has aired a program about Bennington Battle Day that you and I recorded over a dozen years ago. You brought me to all sorts of wide spots in the road. We went down ravines, and we visited the battlefields. Got a little bit more silver in our hair nowadays, but your expertise endures, Howard. Set the stage for us. What's happening with the British Army in what was known at the time, and the Continental Army that was made up of Green Mountain Boys prior to the fighting?
Well, in historic 1776, the British had tried to split New England from the rest of the colonies by moving down the Champlain Corridor, and they were stopped at Valcour Island and Ticonderoga by the Americans. They try again in 1777. A British army under General John Burgoyne with 8,500 men comes again down Champlain. No fleet to stop them now. An undermanned Fort Ticonderoga. They take it easily in early July and keep moving south. There is a rear guard action at Hubbardton in the hills of Vermont.
That's right.
Where they are taught a lot of respect about the fighting capabilities of Vermont soldiers, but they win and they keep moving south under Burgoyne.
Gentleman Johnny Burgoyne on the British side. Who's on the American side, Howard?
On the American side, well, they're going to be facing John Stark, who is coming from the east, from New Hampshire. But they're facing an outnumbered group of Americans right now.
The British have been chasing the Americans. Why does it come to a head in Bennington? How does Burgoyne, what stops Burgoyne and what sends him towards Bennington?
Burgoyne is bound for Albany. He expects to meet two British armies there, which will increase his force, and he will be safe when he finds them. He moves down the Hudson River to a place called Fort Miller, and there he decides to send about 700 of his German mercenaries and some local Tories on an expedition into and across Vermont, apparently to get supplies. I rather think he was looking for the possibility of detecting a flank attack. But anyway, they start off for Vermont, and they run into trouble.
They run into trouble. To understand how this battle unfolded, we're going to the tape. Here you are, Howard, over a decade ago, talking about the Battle of Bennington. We begin with a desperate plea written on a barrelhead by Friedrich Baum.
Baum's march with his 700 men was going well until he came within 5 miles of Bennington to a point along the Willamsick River.
Baum sat down here, wrote a message on the head of a barrel to Burgoyne, "Send me help."
Though the Battle of Bennington is essentially a New York battle, parts of it, the maneuvering, were here in Vermont. We're in Vermont right now at the site of John Stark's campground. Here he was camped with his 1,500 men on the eve of the battle. Here Stark developed his battle plan. It was a complex one, but it worked. The plan was that he would lead the main assault on the enemy center by the river. Also, he would send 200 New Hampshire men under Colonel Moses Nichols on a 6-mile march to the north and then bringing them in behind the enemy. 200 men under Colonel Samuel Herrick, mostly Vermonters, would swing to the south about 6 miles and come in behind the enemy. enveloping the enemy position. It was probably here, just before the action began, that Stark made his famous remark, "The redcoats are there, and they are ours, or Molly Stark sleeps a widow tonight." We're in New York State's Bennington Battlefield Park. We're on this 800-foot hill, the top of which Baum fortified. And he put about 60 of his Hessians into a big earthwork right on top of that hill. The fighting went on here for nearly 2 hours. John Stark, who had been amidst the fury of the Battle of Bunker Hill, said it was the loudest clap of thunder he ever heard, this fight for the hilltop. In the end, the Americans overran this position. There was hand-to-hand fighting within the fortification. Those Hessians that remained alive ran down the hill to get away. Most of them were shot or captured. While Herrick and Nichols battled high on the hill, Stark attacked Baum's positions down along the river. By late afternoon of August 16, 1777, the battle appeared to be over. But suddenly reinforcements sent by Burgoyne in answer to Baum's appeal marched onto the field, led by Colonel Heinrich Bremen. The sudden arrival of Colonel Bremen's 500 men from the west, the relief force, caught Stark's men completely by surprise, and they were driven back a mile to this ravine, where they formed a line of battle and began to fight as best they could, but their line was beginning to give way. Stark's hold on this ravine was indeed becoming tenuous. It looked like all could be lost. And then the Americans heard behind them cheering. Had they been flanked with the British behind them? No. It was 500 reinforcements under the Vermonter Seth Warner. 500 Vermonters come to the rescue, and Warner attacked through this ravine across this little brook and drove the British back. The fighting would go on until darkness.
When it comes to the Revolutionary War, the battles of Concord, Lexington, and Bunker Hill are better known. But for you, Howard, the Battle of Bennington is very important. So what happens after the battle ends?
After the Battle of Bennington, with Baum's force destroyed and Bremen's badly beaten, Burgoyne keeps moving south, bound for Albany. He makes the remark, the area to my east now abounds in the most rebellious and active race on the continent. What a great compliment to Vermont. He moves south, learning that neither army that's supposed to be supporting him is coming. He's all by himself. Down along the Hudson, he comes to Stillwater Heights, and he faces Americans dug in on those heights, maybe as many as 10,000 of them, with more coming every day. Burgoyne decides to attack on the 17th of September, but he meets Morgan's long rifles and Benedict Arnold, and he is driven back. After 3 weeks of skirmishing, he attacks again, October 7th. And this time he is hit hard by Benedict Arnold again and has to retreat. What does he do? He decides to retreat back to Ticonderoga, but he meets General Stark. He's stopped, he is surrounded, and he is forced to surrender near a little village called Saratoga.
And thus ends, for the most part, the American Revolutionary War.
Whoa, it will go on for years.
It will.
But this surrender, the first one of a British army in the history of the empire, will bring the French into the American Revolution. That's the decisive factor
Right.
in the war. Now, Washington says that after Bennington, I really didn't have to worry about Burgoyne anymore. Well, if it's the defeat of Burgoyne that turns the revolution, did that perhaps not happen at Bennington before Saratoga? It's a very interesting question, and it makes the size of that monument at Bennington perfectly appropriate.
Well, perfect segue, because I wanted to say what most people know about the Battle of Bennington is this 306-foot high monument. Very interesting when it was dedicated. A lot of Civil War veterans came to the dedication.
Probably the largest gathering of Civil War veterans in the history of Vermont were there. Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
And a future president is there as well.
Yes, as a boy, Calvin Coolidge is there with his father, and he never forgot it.
The Battle of Bennington and the size of the monument, perhaps a symbol. You can't get much bigger than the importance of this battle to the American experiment, as we say.
Maybe it isn't quite tall enough.
Well, Howard, very, very well said. Thank you very much. Always good to have you with us. That takes care of our program today. My thanks to everyone here at WCX who made this program possible. And as always, thank you for stopping by Across the Fence. I'm Keith Silva. Happy Bennington Battle Day.